Yeah, G-Day was this past weekend. We were there. That was
We
awesome.
were.
Thank you, Street, for getting all the tickets lined up so we could hang out. It was a lot of fun. We had my daughter, your son, vastly different ages, so people don't get your wires crossed there. But it was a lot of fun. I was really happy that they actually played a game because there was a lot of questions about whether or not there was going to be a game played.
Yeah, and the weather was perfect. I mean, it was an absolutely gorgeous day. You couldn't have asked for any better weather for a spring game than what we got. It was right around 70 degrees, sunny. And yeah, the play on the field was pretty good. Obviously, it wasn't your conventional Georgia game. They really tried to showcase a lot on offense. I think there were about 120, 125 plays, and about 80 of those were passes. So definitely
Yeah,
much more
yeah.
pass heavy than a normal Georgia game.
Yeah, pretty much tracks with how Georgia's offense has been the past few years. Been a pass
Yeah,
first offense, and of course last year, there was no running game
right.
whatsoever.
I think that also, you know, was in line with the fact that we had two running backs out injured. We had a couple of offensive linemen that were banged up that weren't playing. So I think, this wasn't a game where you were going to line up and see them run a lot of inside zones and things like that because that just wasn't in the cards for Saturday.
Yeah, and I don't think we can walk away from this particular spring game just thinking that, oh, the offense is so good, or oh, the defense is so good, because both sides looked good and then both sides had some really bad mistakes. So there's plenty to clean up there. But overall, it I thought it was a really good scrimmage, and we got to see some of the newcomers make some big plays. That was really cool to see. Great to see Colby Young back. I
Yeah.
mean, he some crazy good catches.
Yeah. Yeah. I
So that's
mean,
going to be
just
huge.
speaking of Colby Young and starting out, I think one of the biggest takeaways we have from Saturday is the wide receiver room as a whole. It it looks so much better and so much deeper than what we dealt with last year.
It's so
Um,
different. It's so different. Having him and Noah Thomas. I mean, those are some big boys.
right. Just some imposing guys that can move out there on the field and get themselves in position. CJ Wiley looked great too. He had that amazing one hand catch down the sideline for, what it was, 30, 40 yards. It was great to have some size out there, but it was also good to see some speed. Obviously, Branch had a couple of nice plays. That one was a phenomenal catch at the goal line that set up the first touchdown of the day. He had a couple, little screen passes that he took for a few yards. Definitely the potential there to see him kind of get a role similar to what we saw from Isaiah McKenzie a few years ago, where, yes, he's shorter in stature and yes, he's shifty, but he can also go down the field and get the ball. He's not going to just be a slot receiver, I think, in this offense.
Yeah, and there's plenty of other guys that can, rotate with him at the slot. London Humphreys had a probably player of the day. If we're being real, it's either him or Chauncey Bowens.
Yeah, yeah. London Humphreys caught that pass from third, fourth string quarterback Coulter Ginn. That's the name
Colton.
of
No, Coulter.
Colton.
You're right.
No, it's
You're
Coulter.
right.
Coulter
You're
Ginn.
right. Coulter.
Um, it was a really,
Shout,
really nice
shout out
pass.
Coulter.
Yeah, it was a really nice pass. He was under pressure, and Humphreys took it, and it ended up setting up the black team's first touchdown of the day, which Humphreys ended up getting there. He also took a
Yeah,
kind of a pop pass later in the game for a second touchdown. So he was
yeah,
your touchdown leader on the day.
yeah. That first one would have totally been a sack if they were actually going after the quarterback.
Yeah, yeah. That was one thing, normally in these games we see high sack numbers, right? Because it's just two hand touch on the quarterback. I think the refs were kind of letting little touches go because I think there were only technically two sacks in the game on the stat sheet.
Yeah,
So
I think they wanted to play the plays out regardless,
yeah,
just to see, how things are going to go,
yeah,
and get some extra, reps there. So I thought that was really cool. I was really happy with the defensive performance. Did definitely definitely imposed their will, especially in that first half. The offense couldn't do anything against first team defense, and I was really happy to see that, especially with man Elias Williams. Good lord, that's a big boy.
I think I texted you from the dog walk, and I said, "Oh my God, Elias Williams just walked by. That guy's something different." I mean, Georgia has plenty of big players. We have Jackson, but just a guy wearing number 10 that is that big, and he's a freshman. I was amazed. I mean, I don't want to say he's Darnell 2.0, but goodness gracious, like that's a big kid.
Yeah, and gosh, Elijah Griffin had some really good, really big plays. Um, there was one play Georgia likes to run this end around reverse type play. They ran it way too much, but they ran it this time, and uh, Elijah Griffin from his defensive end position I ran whoever was the running back receiver all the way down to the other side of the field for a tackle for loss. It was a very impressive display of athleticism from such a big dude.
Yeah, I think some people were talking over practice this spring. Little flashes of Jalen Carter here and there, just the combination of the speed and the size with him. Definitely a guy who has filled out and looks the part, even though he's only a freshman. Definitely look for him to get some playing time on the defensive line this year.
Yeah, very, very happy with the defensive line play. So moving on from the line, looking at the secondary, saw some big plays by by Harris. He had a big interception, and overall, there were just a ton of batted passes, like
Batted
all day
passes at the
long.
line, broken up passes. Yeah, that was one of the major things. I think you and I turned to each other after the third or fourth batted pass at the line. We're like, is this the old Stetson's too short joke coming
Yeah,
back? There were a
I
lot.
have
There
a
was a
theory.
lot that guys were getting their hands up and knocking balls down, which for the defensive line that's good because in a game where you're not going full out to hit the quarterback, maybe that's they're pulling up a little bit, getting their hands up, but that's a good sign. Your defensive line's getting pressure and getting push if you're batting down passes.
Yeah, so that was awesome. It did get a little annoying after a while when you're just watching the game. It's like, oh my god, another batted pass at the line. Um, but hey, good on the defensive line. Get your hands up, knock the ball down. Um, but as far as the rest of the secondary went, see who am I thinking of?
So I mean, the big guy I want to talk about in the secondary, you already mentioned, is Daniel Harris.
Yes.
Daniel Harris was picked on a lot last year. He gave up a lot of big plays last year. Um, it wasn't a great first year, kind of as a co-starter, first guy off the bench last year for him, but he ended up playing a lot down the stretch after Julian Humphrey kind of was out. Um, I was very impressed with Daniel Harris on Saturday. I think lots of people have been very quick to want to anoint Ellis Robinson to take that spot opposite Dalen Everett. And obviously, Dalen Everett wasn't playing on Saturday, recovering from surgery. The way Daniel Harris played on Saturday, to me, he might be your number two and not Ellis Robinson. And I know
Yeah.
Ellis Robinson is this all world number one player in the country, all of that. But Daniel Harris, it started with the interception early in the game on Stockton, where he followed his guy, turned up, looked for the ball, and made the interception in the end zone. It continued later in the game. He had a couple of pass breakups, a couple of good defensive plays. Not saying he was perfect, but last year he was such a liability in coverage that it was just like he was jumping off the page that he was doing better this year, seeing him out there. So improvement is what you want out of your guys each year they're in the program. This is a guy's third year in the program, so we've seen in the past. Look at Georgia corners during their third year really kind of coming to their own. Everett last year, for one, DeAndre Baker a few years ago, Eric Stokes, guys like that who once they got to that third, fourth year, really, really developed into solid covered corners. So Daniel Harris was one that really stood out for me on Saturday.
Yeah, and I think that really brings up some big questions about Ellis Robinson. I was already kind of questioning like where has he been over this past year? Because that was the big theme from last year on defense. Why isn't Ellis Robinson starting? Why isn't Ellis Robinson starting? Julian Humphreys isn't playing well. Daniel Harris isn't playing well. What's going on? And then going into spring this year, Daniel Harris was ahead of him and on the whole rotation. And I found it very interesting that throughout the game, Ellis Robinson's name was only called a couple times. I don't really remember seeing him much on the field. I could be wrong, but I didn't. If he was on the field, it wasn't meaningful in terms of like big plays. He did have like one tackle that we saw,
Yeah.
but I'm worried that this is going to be big time player that didn't pan out type situation.
It could be, but it could also be that he's just continuing to develop. And like we said, some guys it takes a couple years to really develop into that potential that they have. Not everybody is ready to come in. Even the guys who are the top players at their positions, not ready to start day one. And I think, he did an interview last week. He talked about his development. Some people, I think they kind of question him, were you anxious not starting, not playing a lot? And he didn't seem that way. He said he was fine learning and growing and getting better. So you got to think that he's comfortable in that position. So we're going to need contribution from lots of guys this year. It's not
Yeah.
just going to be sit back there and hope that Malachi Starks and Dan Jackson make plays, kind of like it was at times last year. They're going to need guys. So I, I hope that he continues to develop. I hope he continues to play a lot because the tools are there. The highlights were there in high school.
He's definitely going to get a considerable amount of playing time this year, just by the nature of how Kirby rotates guys on defense. He doesn't care if it's on the line, it's linebacker, secondary. He's rotating guys to keep them fresh, and he has packages for everybody. So that'll be an interesting story to follow along as the year goes on. The big concern that I have about that is this living in this world of NIL. If he's not seeing the field that much, I mean, even with this spring transfer window coming up, I worry that like that's a guy that could, is a good candidate. Like if we're looking at like leading indicators, right?
Right. Right. And we're
Someone,
going to talk about that later tonight. We're going to talk
yeah,
about the Nico Lava situation, the transfer portal, and the madness that I think is coming here in the next couple weeks. Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
yes, definite concerns there. High rated player who's not getting to start. There's probably going to be somebody in his ear over the next couple weeks with
I
some
wouldn't be
money, I'm
shocked at
sure.
all.
And
Yeah,
it just depends on what he's comfortable with. If he's comfortable with his development at Georgia and he feels comfortable with what his role is going to be this year, then he's not going to leave because Georgia's a place where they're going to develop you. But if you really are chasing money, then maybe you go. Another highlight for the defense on Saturday was the play of the linebackers. Um, we know what CJ Allen is at this point. He's going to be a dog back there, kind of leading the team. We've heard a lot about Chris Cole. He made a couple of nice plays, had 6 tackles in the game, a nice tackle for the loss. One of the most impressive plays he had was on a 3rd down near the goal line. He batted a pass away. They had a wide open guy. I can't remember if it was a tight end or receiver, kind of over the middle on a 3rd down. Puglisi dropped back, and he knocked the ball away, and they ended up kicking a field goal. Nice play out of Chris Cole. He looks the part. Like he's a dude out there. Just he looks good in the uniform. And then the other guy is Justin Williams, sophomore linebacker. Played in 12 games last year, contributed some. He was all over the place. 3 tackles for a loss, led all players with 9 tackles in the game. He was flying around a couple of those screens, reverses that you were talking about. He was in the backfield hitting people. Really, really nice game from Justin Williams. Uh, so that kind of four man that they've got going at inside linebacker, Chris Cole, C.J. Allen, Justin Williams, Raylan Wilson, all kind of had some plays on Saturday. And I'm really excited that group is going to get back to what it's really known for at Georgia as the leaders of the defense. Your N'Kobe Dean, your Roquan Smith, that guy who kind of just glues it together. And if you've got a couple of dudes who could do that, it makes everyone else on the field's job a lot easier.
Yep, yep. And behind him, you've got a second year player in KJ Bolden who has some good experience, and Aguero coming back from injury. He made some good plays this weekend.
Yeah, he
So
had some ups and downs. He had a couple of good plays, but some of the problems that he had last year still existed. He was picked on a little bit a few times, and that's kind of what he was last year. He's a good hard hitting guy, um, which is why he's playing star and not playing safety. He's not as good in coverage. But Aguero, he looked good, and I think the key to him, like you said, is being healthy. He's been hurt so much his first 2 years on campus that, like, anytime he kind of has gotten momentum in the right way, he's gotten hurt again. It looked like the other starter out there at safety, next to Bolden, was DeMello Jones, I think, was in there at the start of the game. Chris Peel made a play at one point in the game. So you've got some other guys mixing it up back there. It's going to be a little bit different, obviously. Like I said, without Malachi Starks, who's been the rock back there for 3 years, Dan Jackson, who's been a contributor for 4 years. It's going to be a new face in the safety room. So KJ Bolden seems like he's the part and definitely can step up and lead that group.
Yep, yep. Was very happy with the secondary play. Um, so there's a lot of promising things on the defense. So some other areas that gives me a lot of hope. Switching gears to the offense and this was the thing that I was most interested in seeing, is the O line. There were some really bright spots here, particularly in the run game. They were able to physically move the defensive line several times for some really good chunk run plays. Also some really short yardage type plays, 1 yard runs that frankly Georgia just wasn't able to be super successful with last year, with the exception of some spots. But that's just something we didn't see at all last year.
Yeah.
And the year before, like when the last time we really saw the O line really move people was in the Natty years.
Right. And I don't think they were fully healthy on the O line. I think there were a couple guys, a couple of expected starters not even playing on Saturday. I think Ernest Green was playing, but he had a club on his hand. So you got to see some of the other guys. Jaw Jackson was out there, which is still funny because he's just so much bigger than everyone else, even though those are huge men. But yeah, the O line held up pretty good. They had a good day. They didn't run, like I said, they didn't run the ball a lot. And even from the run plays that they did, some of them were sweeps or reverses. So not a lot of true running plays. But as you said, and you mentioned it during the game, and after you said it, I noticed it too, that they were getting some push up
Yeah,
front. Frazier still kind of had some of his same issues. He still dances a little bit.
he dances a
I,
little too much.
I just wish he would hit holes. But yeah, it was a good. The running game looked pretty good. Chauncey Bowens really showed up and had some nice runs. Bo Walker, we've heard tons about him. He broke off a nice 30-yard run, had a couple nice catches. It was a solid day from the running back room, really. They all kind of contributed a lot of, there were a lot of passes and not as many runs, but everybody kind of got a chance to, of the 4 running backs, really got a chance to touch the ball. And even Cash Jones got in there. He would have had a really long reception, except Stockton missed him wide open
Yeah,
on a wheel route.
yeah. The only area the line really struggled was with pass protection, in my opinion, because like I said, I thought were a lot of sacks in the game,
That
but
just
of
weren't
course,
called.
yeah, they just let them play through. Um, just watching a lot of the clips, you see that was a sack. That was a sack. But then you get the long passes to Humphreys and some of the other guys, Colby Young, and you just know that these quarterbacks are probably holding on to the ball a little bit longer, but that offensive line is still very new, young, replacing a lot of starters. So getting that chemistry up front is going to be a big thing that they have to focus on um, between now and the first game. But hey, we'll see.
Yeah, offensive line was solid. Another group that looked really solid was the tight end room. How good does it feel to be back to going 5 deep at the tight end position, bro?
It's really nice, and
Because
that tight
every
end room,
single tight end that we have, all 5 of them had
yeah,
some kind of contribution in this game, and it wasn't just a nice block here or a 2 yard play there from a gorgeous pass catch by Delp on a high pass over the middle in traffic. A couple of nice catches by Ethan Barber. Elias Williams had a catch. Lucky had a couple of catches, and even the kind of forgotten man in the room, Jaden Reddle, had a nice little swing pass that went for like a 15-yard gain. I mean, the tight end position, you couldn't ask for anything more. They all
yeah.
really looked good.
That play by Reddle, he was rumbling, stumbling, bumbling. It was good. I love being really deep at tight end. Any one of those guys can be your number one at any time. I mean, you've got size, you've got speed, you've got the blocking ability. They can all catch and run with the ball. I mean, there's not much more you can ask for out of your tight end room. It's probably, if not the best tight end group in the nation, it's up there.
It's got to be up there just on pure talent alone. And what's even funnier, the biggest kind of recruiting story out of the weekend is that Georgia is now the favorite to land the number 1 and number 2 tight ends in the next class as well.
Of course, tight end
They
unit.
were one of them was there on Saturday, and they both are raving on Georgia, and people are talking that they might get 2 more of the top tight ends in the country. Pay Todd Hartley whatever he needs to stay around forever, because that
For
man can
real.
just flat out recruit.
Yeah, he can.
There's no question there.
Yeah. Yeah, for real. Yeah. So couple that with our new and improved wide receiver core, the pass catching positions at Georgia, top notch. I mean,
Yeah.
you feel good about all the talent that is there now, especially when you compare it to last year when you just kind of held your breath every time we threw the ball. You didn't know if it was going to be interception or drop.
Right. I think if Georgia just gets consistency out of the wide receiver position that we didn't have last year, it makes things so much better, because everybody wants to talk about the problems last year of the running back room and all that. But how many times did we start out a drive where we had a pass and the guy was wide open, dropped the ball, and then all of a sudden it's 2nd and 10? And you're already behind the 8 ball, both running the ball and passing the ball.
That was every game, just about every
It seemed
game.
like it.
I mean, the Alabama game is where it really started. You know, Aaron Smith gets hit directly in the hands, would have been a huge chunk play. But the other side of that is the receiver's got to block, and your running game is not going to be anything special if you're not getting blocking at that second, third level.
Yeah.
And we got burned on that big time in the Notre Dame game. Safety came down, receiver just completely whiffed, and dude knocked Etienne square, made him fumble, his only fumble in his college career, which was crazy.
Yeah. So we've been talking about the pass catchers and what they did on Saturday, and we didn't even talk about the guy who was the leading receiver in terms of yards in the game, or the guy who had probably the 2 best catches of the game. So let's first talk about the leading receiver, and that was Dylan Bell. The senior leader of this room had a couple of great plays in this game, and he got back to his run play too. He had a nice run play too. Caught a deep ball over the middle. It was gorgeously thrown deep ball. That went for like a 50-yard gain. Bell looked solid. No drops out of him. Back to being that explosive player. He's got his brother in tow. His brother made a play. They've got another guy named Jeremy Bell, who's a walk-on redshirt freshman who caught a touchdown. The Bell boys, man. The Bell boys in the wide receiver room, all looking good.
So many sets of brothers on this team.
Right. It's just funny because Jeremy Bell's not related to him at all, but let's just clump them together because they got
the Bells, you got the Branches, you got the Delps.
And then the other guy that I know you are super excited for because you really talked about him a lot last year that we weren't getting the ball is Sokovie White.
Yeah.
That drive in the second half, it was a 2-play drive. He caught both of the passes from Stockton. Both were phenomenal catches. Sokovie White's a dude, man.
Yeah.
He looked really, really good on Saturday, and I hope that we continue to use him. You know, everybody's looking forward to Branch, right? But Sokovie White's a similar guy, similar skill set, and I think we need to use him as well.
Yeah, that touchdown catch that he made was, Sports Center top 10 material. It was a fantastic grab. So I'm really looking forward to what he can do this year. He's definitely a weapon that you got to just get him the ball any way you can.
Yeah. So I think the last kind of topic that we have not talked on, and probably the one that most people would have started with, is the quarterback competition. Burl, what'd you see out of the quarterbacks on Saturday, and where do you think it goes from here?
Yeah, I thought it was okay. It wasn't great. It wasn't bad. First half, both quarterbacks really struggled to get going. But as the game progressed, the quarterbacks got better and better and better. Gunner, started out, he had that interception he threw to Harris, but just continued to keep getting better. And the thing that was really impressive about Gunner was watching him go through his progressions. I saw a couple times throughout the game where he looked for this first guy, not there, second guy, and then all the way check down. And that's the sign of a really mature quarterback, and he should be doing that, full command of the offense. And he throws a great deep ball.
He does.
He throws a really great deep ball.
Yeah. I think my biggest observation from Gunner is that clearly he's the one right now. Puglisi has the talent.
Put your ones up.
Yeah. I think I texted you during warm-ups before you got in the game. I was watching the quarterbacks, warm up. And this is the first time we're really seeing Puglisi at all. And I said to you, the ball comes out of his hand different.
Yeah.
He throws a gorgeous ball with a lot of zip. His passes are crisp. He looks the part. But when you watch them out on the field in terms of just how they moved around and how comfortable they felt, I definitely felt like Gunner was way more comfortable and in more command of the offense. Puglisi's got all the talent in the world, don't get me wrong, and I think he has the potential to be a great starter, but this is clearly Gunner's team right now. I was impressed with Puglisi a little bit. We obviously know Gunner Stockton can run. He showed that in the SEC championship game. He's a hard-nosed guy. I didn't know Puglisi could move. He can move too.
Surprising wheels there.
He looked pretty good. He had one where he broke a run up the middle. It was like a 15-yard run, and he had a couple of little scrambles that he did not get touched on that he looked really good. The interception he threw, I don't know if it was his fault or if it was the receiver's fault because it looked horrible. Dominic Kelly picked him off. It looked really bad.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
it looked like he threw it right
really
to him,
bad.
but the receiver continued on the route. So I don't know if that was another situation kind of like last year where, the receiver and the quarterback just weren't on the same page what the route was. But I know that they really, really let Puglisi air it out. I think he threw 49 passes in the game.
Wow. I thought Puglisi had a really great day for where he's at in his career, for lack of a better term. He definitely showed a lot of arm talent. There was a quick strike touchdown pass to Colby Young and just a bullet to Ethan Barber on another play. And that was really showing off his strengths. Then where we got to see kind of where he needs to improve was lack of just awareness of holding on to the ball too long. There, he took a lot more sacks than Gunner did in the entirety of the game. But overall, very promising. Another year under his belt. He could very well be the starter in the next season, or maybe some point this season. God will, God forbid, Gunner getting hurt or anything.
Yeah. One other thing on Puglisi that I noticed, and I think you noticed it too, was the whole first half he was in with the second string. To come out there
Yes,
in the second half, he had a couple drives with the ones. After that, he kind of changed. He really struggled overall in the first half. The second half, he looked much better, and I think it really started once he had that drive with the ones. I think he just felt more comfortable, and I know that they've been splitting reps in practice with the ones, so maybe he just had better rapport with those guys. But he did seem more comfortable out there with the ones.
tell you could definitely tell a difference when he was playing with the ones. Just a stark contrast in his comfort level.
Yeah. Obviously, Ryan Montgomery didn't play. He was in a brace, um, and it was just weird to see a number 15 out there and it not be Carson. Um, Hezekiah Milner got in the game. He didn't look very comfortable at all.
Yeah,
He's quick and he looks like he might have some tools, but he's a work. And Coulter
got
again
a
had a couple of
cannon.
nice passes, but I think what this tells me is that Georgia's probably going to look to get a quarterback in the portal. Not somebody to come in to start, but somebody who's got some experience. A fifth year senior quarterback from somewhere else, something like
like
that.
like Tennessee.
No, somebody who's going to cost considerably less in NIL money. But it wouldn't surprise me if we add a transfer quarterback in the spring portal.
Yeah, it wouldn't shock me either. I mean, when it comes to the transfer portal nowadays, nothing shocks me.
Right.
But overall, I thought the chemistry is probably the biggest area where the team has to improve on. And it's spring. They've had just a handful of practices. You've got all these new guys at position groups. You've got young guys stepping up, filling the void for all the guys that left or went to the NFL. So that just comes with reps, and we know that they're going to get that throughout the fall camp, and hopefully we just see that chemistry get a little bit better, especially between Gunner and the new wide receivers. I think that's probably the biggest area there that needs to improve.
Yeah. And I think my final thoughts are going to be more on the defensive side. Like I said, the offense was kind of up and down. We saw some highlights. On the defensive side, I see a lot of promise. That middle linebacker group, if they can step up and lead this team, I think we will see a continuation of the defense, but maybe even a little bit back. We're not going to see 2021 again. We don't have the upperclassmen dogs that we had in that class, not yet, but the potential is there. So hopefully the defense. I would hope that the defense leads this team because the offense, in terms of senior leadership or upperclassmen leadership, is not what it's been the last few years. So to me, I was encouraged by the play of the defense. Yeah, there were some big plays that were given up, but there was nothing bad. It wasn't like last year when we just had those head scratcher broken plays where teams were getting 50-yard plays. I think the two longest plays in the game were the pass to Dylan Bell, where it was just a one-on-one and it was a perfect thrown ball. The guy was in decent position, and then the other one was the pass that was probably actually a sack that Coulter Ginn threw to London Humphreys. So you know there was nothing, there was no real breakdowns, and I was really encouraged by the defensive performance in this game.
Yeah, I was too, and I think Georgia's identity is being led by the defense. Georgia's had some great offensive talent over the past few years in the national title years. You had Stetson and Brock Bowers and all those guys, but the core root identity of Kirby Smart's Georgia football teams starts at the defensive line and that front seven. If that's not leading the team, then we're gonna have a season like we did last year. So, who was your G Day MVP?
My G Day MVP. I think on the defensive side of the football, you got to say it's Daniel Harris. On the offensive side of the ball, probably Sokovie White. I think he was the most that made the most impression out there of somebody that we didn't really know much about, but made a couple of really nice plays and looked like he could be a guy that we might see a lot more out of this fall. What about you?
Good takes, good takes. I'm gonna go for the low hanging fruit here. Daniel Harris on defense for sure, but the G Day MVP for me is London Humphreys because he had a bunch of touchdowns, some big plays. He got a touchdown on a jet sweep. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So hopefully we see that carry on throughout the season.
Yeah.
All right, so we had a great day at G Day. Before we jump into some news here, we just want to thank you all for watching. If you like this content, hit the like button. Definitely hit the subscribe button. It really helps us out. We appreciate it, and we just want your help in getting the word out about the podcast.
Yeah, and we know we have a lot of new subscribers after this last weekend. So we wanted to do something special to kind of celebrate everybody joining the channel. With that being said, we're going to be starting up a contest here. And the winner of the contest is going to win 3 autographed Georgia football cards. The first one, Tate Ratledge, future NFL draft pick. The second one is backup running back Dwight Phillips.
Dr. Phillips?
Yep. And the last one is one of our stars from G-Day, linebacker Justin Williams. So if you're interested in having a chance to win these cards, we ask you to do a couple of things. 1, make sure you're subscribed to the podcast. Number 2, leave a comment below on this video, and we want you to answer this question. Who do you think will be Georgia's breakout player in 2025? We'll collect up all the responses, and we'll do a random drawing and announce the winner next week.
Okay. So the big news from this past week that will not go away is the Nico Amaliba drama.
Nico Iamaleava has become the first holdout in college football history who lost.
Yeah, he lost bad. I mean,
I don't think I've ever
bad.
seen somebody tank their draft stock and their overall stock in themselves worse than this. Like, I mean, some guys have done some horrible things, gotten in trouble with the law, but this dude has went from like this amazing 5-star, like future NFL draft prospect to nobody wants him. Like, and he's like the evil enemy of the country. And you know what? He's a grown man, but I don't think it's really his fault. I think he's got some bad advice. His parents, whoever it is advising him, really, really misread the room.
Yeah, and people were ready to hand him the Heisman after the second game last year, and I'm really worried about the kid. I actually feel bad for him.
I mean, I don't feel bad for him because he's got like $4.8 million already in the bank.
I know, but just thinking about it from a psychological standpoint here,
yeah,
he goes from being part of a really great football program in Tennessee, making $2 million a year, to now nobody wants him. I mean, he's not going to get $2 million a year.
No,
he'll be lucky to get 100,000 at this point.
The most amazing thing of this whole situation, this came out, I guess I heard it yesterday. Josh Pate stated it, is that Nico was actually negotiating to play in their playoff game against Ohio State last year.
That was the biggest wow, I can't believe that happened moment from last week. You're trying to win a national championship.
and you're the
And you're going to
quarterback,
hold out?
and you already made $2.4 million or whatever it was.
I mean, what do your teammates think of you? It's
I
like
don't know.
you're going to
And the thing was,
abandon them
Pate
on
said
a
this was not the only one. Like, who are the others?
seriously. This is that disgusts me. I'm
This
all
is
for
all the.
and
This is
and,
the. I mean, it's blown
and
up
let
across
me
the country. It's just absolutely disgusting. You're right.
yeah, and let me be clear. I'll speak for you on this too. We want players to get paid. We
Yes,
want people to make money. That
everybody wants the players to get paid.
we have no problem with that. But there's this thing called integrity. You want to do the right thing even when people aren't looking. Well, if you're going to hold out and hold your team hostage when you're going into a playoff run to win a national championship, you're a bad teammate.
Right.
No one's going to want to play with you.
Right. And you know what? Somebody made a good point. I can't remember who it was. I think was it Pate or somebody else? They said that the reason that this situation is so messed up and so different than everybody's like, oh, the pairs should be played and all that stuff. Well, that's going to happen. With this revenue sharing, the players are going to get paid, but that money is going to be revenue shared, right? This money that they're talking about right now is not revenue share money. This is NIL money coming from collectives. You know who funds the collectives? You do. I do. The fans do. So you're sitting there telling the fans that have already paid money into this collective to pay you millions of dollars that that's not good enough, that you need more money to go compete for them in a playoff spot. And then after spring practice, at the end of spring practice, right before your spring game, where you've gone through all of spring, your team's gotten comfortable, we're heading to the next season, then you're gonna bring that up. Like, it's really, really, really nasty what the people around him did. And yes, he is a grown man, so yes, he has responsibility in it too. But man, it just makes
Parents'
your
influence is very, very strong
yeah.
especially when you're that age. It's either strong one way or the other.
And for
No question.
Tennessee, because Tennessee as a school went to bat for Nico and helped sue because they were trying to say that his recruitment was illegal. And so the University of Tennessee went to bat and helped in the lawsuit to prevent Nico from getting in trouble and making sure that he was eligible. Like, Tennessee is a rival of Georgia. I never want to speak too good of rival programs, but damn it if Tennessee didn't do the right thing here.
They did. They did absolutely the right thing. And it it's frustrating to hear that this type of thing happen because you look at his stats. Just look at the numbers from last year. They're they're pedestrian. They're
Right.
not that great. And you're saying, "Oh, I should make what Carson Beck makes?" Well, I'm sorry. Carson Beck led the SEC in
Right.
passing yards. You didn't.
Mario Cristobal came out and said, hey, like, this situation's bad. And somebody was trying to give him crap and saying, oh, you gave all that money to Carson Beck and da da da. Well, yes, they gave money to Carson Beck, but they did it after the season when Carson Beck wasn't in the middle of being on a team. He was going to the NFL. He had already announced that he was going pro when they offered him money. So
Yeah.
I don't really feel bad about it. A, and B, Carson Beck, for as bad of a year he had, his stats were way better. And he was on a
He
team
actually
that,
had a really good year.
right. So you can't knock and compare the situations there. Plus, Carson Beck is a fifth-year senior who has been a starter for 2 years at a team that, in his starts in the last 2 years, lost 3 games.
Yeah.
And we spent a good portion of both seasons at number 1.
And the best thing that Nico can say they did is hand the ball off.
Right.
Because the running game for Tennessee was best in the SEC.
Right. And the other part of this situation is, how did everybody find out about Nico's situation? Well, the rumor, and it seems like it's probably more than a rumor, but the technical rumor is that it was Dan Lanning who found out that Nico's people were calling and asking Oregon about money. And Dan Lanning was the one who alerted Josh Heupel. And some people online were trying to vilify Dan Lanning. And I was like, excuse me? You're trying to vilify him for doing the right thing? Like, he
Yeah,
could have been like anybody else and said, yeah, let's bring Nico over. I'm Oregon. I've got Nike money. I got unlimited resources. Money's nothing to us up here. You want to come play? We'll pay you.
yeah.
He did the right thing. So good on Dan Lanning, and good for
DGD, baby.
coaches. Yeah, I mean, but good for coaches sticking up for themselves and for other coaches.
Yeah. And here's the other thing is people who want to use the argument of, coaches being able to leave whenever they want. Coaches aren't doing this crap.
Well, and there's one more key factor that the coaches have that, that I hate when people say that, oh, the coaches are doing it. Look at them. The coaches have contracts, number one.
Mhm.
And all of those contracts nowadays, especially, have buyouts included with them. So if that coach leaves and goes to another school, well, that school he left high and dry is at least getting something back for it. They're getting compensation and money.
Yeah.
These players have no contracts. And with that, that was kind of the next thing I was going to talk about, and that's the transfer portal. So last year, Josh Pate said, transfer portal, spring transfer portal, it's going to be insane. It's coming. And it didn't happen. But on his show yesterday, he said, that transfer portal chaos I was talking about last year? Yeah, I think it's about to happen. And you've kind of already started seeing it. And there are guys that were in good positions that are clearly being tampered with. And the new development is guys who already transferred this offseason are transferring again.
Yeah.
So let's start with Jaden Ott, running back from Cal. 2 years ago, led the Pac-12 in rushing, was hurt a lot of the year last year. All of a sudden, rumblings came out. Yesterday, he's in the portal. Today, he's committed to Oklahoma. Already. You're going to tell me that wasn't tampering, but nobody cares, right?
There's no rules right now.
Right, there's no rules. Here's another one. Isaiah Augustive, running back for Colorado, was Colorado's leading rusher last year. Now, Colorado was the worst rushing team in the country, so that doesn't say much. But he was their leading rusher, returning back on a program that's obviously spending money in NIL.
Yeah, they'll still
He originally transferred there from Arkansas, so he's already been in the portal once. Yeah, now he's gone.
And they'll probably retire his number.
Well, we can talk about that in a minute too.
Yeah.
But then here's an interesting one, and this is the example I'm talking about of guys who are, taking advantage of this. Julian Neal, safety. He was at Fresno State last year. Really, really solid, good player. After the fall, went in the portal, was the number 4 corner in the portal, rated as a 4-star, committed to Stanford. Okay. Has been on campus at Stanford all through spring practice. What'd he do? He went in the portal. A guy who spent a spring practice at one school is now back in the portal. He probably got some money to go there initially. Now he's going to get money again. How many guys are going to start doing this every year unless there's something in place? How many guys are going to get a bonus payment at the end of the year and then get another bonus payment at the end of spring?
Well, at what point do the schools just say they've had enough?
And that's what we're seeing. Maybe Nico is the breaking point. Maybe it's that, hey, you know what? Maybe giving these guys who are unproven $2.5–3 million, maybe that's really not the game that we need to be involved in. Obviously, the rev share thing is going to change it when you've only got $20 million to spend, and then it might have everything else might be NIL, but it has to be cleared. It might get a little bit tougher, but I don't know if it's going to fix it. There's still going to be people who overpay. There always is, even in the NFL where you have a salary cap, or in Major League Baseball where you have a luxury tax, and the Dodgers keep paying people. They find a way around it. So people will find a way.
Yeah, I agree. And for the folks that are wanting to blame the NCAA for this Nico situation, that's a dumb argument.
I don't know if I agree with you there. It's their rules.
Hear me out. Yeah,
okay.
The rules suck. But at the end of the day, him and his group made the decision that they were going to pull this stunt, that's on them. It, if
Them
there were
tanking
one,
Nico's value is definitely on them. The situation in this happening and it going to continue happening more, that's on the NCAA. So I understand, but I understand what you're saying. Nico's case in particular is not really necessarily on the
yeah,
NCAA.
well,
He is a special case, but
exactly
overall,
that's really what I'm talking about is people are so reluctant to place any accountability on this guy or his group and blame the NCAA. I'm not a fan of the NCAA. They suck.
yeah. I
They
mean,
suck for
in some ways, you kind of say Nico's people get what they deserve, right? His dad, Peter Nakos, was the one who originally reported kind of all that there was this rumbling going on, and Nico's dad went after him on social media and called him a bitch, and like said he was lying. And then, but did you see? Did you see what the guy who runs On Three on the weekend? He goes, "This guy deserves a raise." And then today he put up a picture and he goes, "This is a man who just got a raise," and it was him like giving him a new contract.
nice.
It was really really funny. Um, yeah, I mean,
Yeah. And
yeah, I feel
now
bad. I feel bad for Nico. I don't feel bad for his family. I don't feel too bad for him because, like I said, he's already got $4.5 million and he's 20 years old. But his value is gone. North Carolina said they're
well, that's it.
out. Tulane said they're out. I don't know where he's going to end up. Maybe UCLA is one that was mentioned. USC said they were out. So I don't know where he ends up, but I think he's really
I
damaged his
mean,
draft stock.
it's
And I think
it's
this is a
really
sign of
it's
things to
really
come.
it's really telling when Tulane backed out. That was
They may have just backed out because, frankly, they couldn't afford it. You know?
yeah, but still.
Yeah.
Anyway, I do feel bad for the kid in the long run, just because when you go from making that much money to whatever he's going to be at, wherever he might end up at, that's just a rough thing to deal with. Just
Yeah.
yeah, so I feel bad for him on that front. Um, but let's talk about something that's funny. Colorado is retiring Travis Hunter and Shador Sanders numbers. Two guys, one that won a Heisman, so that's cool. That's good. I mean,
That's fine.
that's fine. You know, that's a little worthy, but
It's a little early, but
they didn't
that's
win
fine.
any, didn't win any championships of any measure or any
No.
level, conference or national.
Yeah. I think
Oh,
it's like I said, Hunter, I'm fine. If you want to retire the number of a Heisman Trophy winner, oh, albeit schools do that all the time.
yeah,
But some
and he's a generational talent.
right. But somebody made a great point today, and I just laughed so hard when I saw this. Florida still hasn't retired Tim Tebow's number 15.
I know.
Arguably top 5 in terms of impact, greatest players in college football history. Like, and his number's not retired at a school that has way more football tradition than Colorado.
Georgia hasn't retired Stetson's 13.
Well, Georgia officially stopped retiring numbers after Herschel. They made it a point to say that they were never going to retire a number after that.
Still, he deserves a statue.
He does deserve a statue. I will be on board with that. But yeah, I just think this is pandering. This is pandering to the fan base who has so loves the Dion aura that they just want to continue to, I don't know, pump up this era that they're in. And as we've stated before, we want Dion to continue success, but retiring the number of your son just because he put up great pass numbers, I don't know, man. Somebody else made a point that Cordell Stewart arguably made the greatest play in their school's history, and his number's not retired at Colorado.
This this is just hysterical to me.
Yeah.
It just makes me laugh. But
So
hey, Dion is the master promoter. I mean, he might as well be in the WWE because he could promote with the best of them.
he absolutely could.
You can cut a promo too. All right, that's going to do it for us tonight. If you like this content, hit that subscribe button, like the video, tell a friend, and just help us out there.
Yeah, don't forget to leave a comment. Answer our question. Who do you think's Georgia's breakout player in 2025? Get entered to win our special giveaway. But until next time, I'm Streit.
I'm Burl.
Go Dogs.
Go Dogs.